Assalamu alaikum, students. Our today's lecture is about common mistakes in the work of students, or you may say commonly made mistakes. There is a whole lot of them, and as your examiner in Cambridge is going to you may say mark each and every mistake. Therefore, you must be very clear about some frequently repeated mistakes. Now please listen. Generally, your narrative or the story you write is in the past tense. Okay? Although there are so many stories written by excellent writers which are in the present, but they maintain the tense. An ordinary writer like you, or maybe me, I myself, may not be able to write so flawlessly. Therefore, it is to your own advantage that you write in the past. What actually happens, sometimes students start their narrative in the present and then they shift into the past. Therefore, please make it sure you do not keep on shifting from past into present and present into past. Okay? And many mistakes will arise because of this shifting. Now, the first thing about the tense is that if the first verb is in the past, the second also has to be in the past. Okay? And there are some basic rules about the use of verbs. For example, I often repeat in my class that always use first form of the verb after do, does, did. He didn't come. Came नहीं हो सकता. Okay. Then after to. Okay. After to, we once again always use first form of the verb. To go, to leave, to jump, to cry. To, which is infinitive, cannot take second form. Then another basic rule, after has, have, had, we always use third form of the verb. There is no exception. If it is perfect tense, we always use third form of the verb. Then another rule, after modal verbs, modal auxiliary verbs like will, would, shall, should, may, might, can, could, we always use first form of the verb. And one more thing, we cannot use two modals together. For example, yesterday I was reading some post and it was written might, can. No, we do not use two modal verbs together. Okay. Then please, another very common mistake made by many students is when they introduce speech in their work. Or they want to report something. Or you may say reported speech. For example, somebody is writing and he or she says, when I arrived home that afternoon, my mother shouted at me, where you have been. Now please listen, what is happening? The writer is not making it clear that it is a speech. No use of speech marks. So the word of advice in such situations is either use direct speech properly or use the rules of indirect speech. When, for example, this sentence could be reported like this: when I arrived home that afternoon, my mother asked me where I had been. So this is the rule of reported speech. Now please listen. Some candidates or some students, when they are writing a story, they make a lot of use of direct speech or dialogue. You may say dialogue. Now the problem is your canvas is very limited, short, just 350 words to 500 words. If you keep on writing speech so often, so frequently, so repeatedly, your plot, your storyline will weaken. It will not be very visible. So what is the most important thing in your narrative is the storyline, how the things are developing, how the main characters are behaving, and how the climax is developing. These are the things which are more important, not the dialogue. And one more thing, use dialogue sparingly and only at places where there is something very important which helps in the development of the plot, which brings some much needed information, or which complicates the issues. Speech in your narrative is not for everyday talk. Therefore, use the speech very sparingly. Now please, another very important area, or you may say the type of mistakes made by students, is the agreement between subject and verb. Okay? By subject we mean the thing we talk about. Okay? By subject we mean the thing we talk about. It may be a person or it may be a thing. Now the rule is, if the subject is singular, the verb will always be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb will also be plural. Now please, number one rule. If your subject is he, she, it, or any singular name, it may be a person or it may be a thing, it will be followed by has if the tense is perfect. He has, she has, it has, the man has. But if the subject is plural, the verb will be plural. Then in the present tense, we'll use are, simple present tense, and if it is perfect tense, have in the present tense. Okay. Then please, there is another area where two subjects are interlinked with linking words. For example, either, or, neither, nor, not only but also, along with, as well as. The simple rule is that actually these linking words are used in pairs. For example, either, or, neither, nor, not only but also. And they have a specific name. They are called, in the language of grammar, correlatives. And by correlatives we mean that they are interlinked, correlated. If one is there, the second also has to be there. And the rule I was telling you is the verb will agree with the second one. For example, neither my parents nor my sister. So I have told you that the verb will go with the second one, which is closer to the verb. Neither my parents nor my sister is in favor of my studying abroad. Although the sentence began with parents, the grammar rule says that if we are using correlatives, the verb will agree with the second one. And so is the case with either, or. Either you are telling a lie, or your friends. Now the second subject is friends, plural, and the verb will automatically be plural. Friends are, friends have. Okay. And similarly, not only but also. Not only he offered me a very good job, but also. So whenever we are using not only but also will also be there. Okay. And the verb again will be according to the, which is the closer to the verb. Okay. Now please listen. Sometimes we also interlink or add another noun using along with, as well as. For example, the principal along with some faculty members. Now, it is very natural that we are saying other faculty members. So we will be inclined to use a plural verb. But the grammar says that when we are joining using along with or as well as, the verb will go along with the first part or the first subject. The principal, along with some faculty members, was taking a round of the school. Okay, now please listen. There are different pronouns, personal pronouns you already know, and one type of personal pronouns is indefinite pronouns. By indefinite pronouns we mean pronouns which do not specify any one person. For example, someone, somebody, nobody, anybody, no one, anyone, someone. All these indefinite pronouns are singular. So whenever we use any one of them, it will be followed by singular verb. Somebody has stolen. Okay? Have nahi aayega. Similarly, please, if you introduce some impersonal pronoun, for example, sometimes what happens, you use you. You should not use, or you should not do. Similarly, one should not do. The rule is whatever pronoun you use. For example, if you use one, the grammar says one will always be followed by one. One should always be very careful about one's duties. His nahi aayega. One should always be very careful about one's duties. Now please, another very important area, and where many students make very serious mistakes, is the punctuation. Your examiner will be watching your use of punctuation. Now please listen. When we are talking, we have the advantage of our body language. We have the advantage of intonation. We can pause, we can raise our voice and then bring it down. And this makes our speech very clear, understandable. But when we are writing, we have to use pauses which show where the writer is showing some link. Okay? Now, as I talked about assessment criteria, I told you that the examiner will be watching the variety of sentences you use, different types of sentences. And this can only be possible if you use short sentences and long sentences as well. And when we are using a very long sentence, of course, we have to use correct punctuation in order to make the meaning clear. Now, there are two types of punctuation. One is external punctuation, and the second one is internal punctuation. Now, as far as end punctuation is concerned, I don't think many of you make any mistakes. For example, if the sentence is closing, we use a period or full stop. If it is a question, direct question. And you very well know what is a direct question. Oh, of course it will end with the with the question mark, or if it is a exclamation, it will have exclamation mark, and an exclamation mark is strong, forceful display or expression of feeling or emotions. It can be surprise, wonder, joy, sorrow, grief. However, if it is a strong expression of feelings or emotions, we use exclamation mark. The problem comes with internal punctuation. And you already know that the most frequently used internal punctuation mark is a comma. And please listen, the use of punctuation is not for decoration. It is for meaning. It is for meaning, making your writing clear in meaning. Number one use of a comma is to separate what words, phrases, things, objects, people, etc. So, a comma is used to separate. Okay? But a comma is also used when we use complex sentences. For example, if there is a subordinating clause, so it will be separated from the main clause with a comma. Now the rule is, if the subordinating clause comes before the sentence starts with a subordinating clause, it will be separated with a comma from the main clause. For example, you say, as he had never met him before, there is a pause. The first part of the sentence is a subordinating clause. As he had met him never before, comma, he took some time to recognize him. Now the rule is, if we begin sentences with conjunctions like although, because, since, nevertheless, even though, etc., it will be separated, the main clause will be separated with a comma. But it can be the other way. The main clause can come first. For example, he could not recognize her as he was meeting her the first time. So here there is no need for a comma. Now please listen. Sometimes what happens that students leave a sentence incomplete, and such groups of words are called fragments. For example, if you begin your sentence, for example, even though he had not worked hard his life, all through his life, and then you finish the sentence. Okay? When you type this kind of expression or group of words, MS Word sentence check or grammar check will underline it, and you will be advised to revise the sentence, and the advice given will be fragment. Okay, this is a fragment. It means it is not a complete sentence. Now please listen. In order to know that your group of words, the expression you have written, is a complete sentence, you have to make it sure that there is a finite verb. And by finite verb, we mean that form of the verb which tells us about the tense of the sentence. If there is an expression which doesn't tell us about the tense of the sentence, it is not a sentence. It is a fragment. Okay, I think this is enough for today. I'll send you a worksheet for this lecture, and please, I once again request you, feel free to ask any questions you have in your mind. You can call me or you can send me email, and inshallah I'll check your work and provide you proper feedback. But please do start writing. If it is difficult for you, you can request Sir Sadi that you should be allowed to write on paper with pen, of course, and WhatsApp me and I can check it. Okay? Thank you. See you again.